back to Crimson Glass on YouTube, and it is part 2 of Writing Mad World Book 4. I've reread the draft, all 3 books, over 1,100 pages. Now what? The last time you guys heard from me was about a week ago. I said that I was going to sit down and reread books 1 through 3, and I said that before I actually compiled it into Word. And I know that might sound like okay, so what? I knew how long each book was, but I think that I had never compiled them all at once into a Word document. I had put them into an ebook and just never really thought about length after that. It was 1,100 pages and 500,000 words, and I thought, well, okay, I won't be reading this in a weekend. It took me Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, part of Monday night, and all of Wednesday night, and the only reason I finished it finally on Wednesday night was that I did not have work the next morning because it was Christmas Eve. I'm filming this on Christmas Eve. You guys are seeing it a week later. I had to stay up till midnight to finish. I was like, I actually have other things I need to do. I need to finish this book, and I wanted my reading to be close enough together so that it felt like I was making the right choices. So I went ahead and did that, and then I spent about 20 minutes making notes about what were my thoughts after reading all 3 of the drafts all together. And then today I booted up my Mad World beta draft notes that I had already made. What were things I thought needed to be in book 4? What were things that I wanted to add? And I have a basic kind of outline of what it is. I looked over that to see how it fits together. So now we are going to take this vlog into my traditional Discovery series where we are now at the brainstorming session. So now that I have my entire history behind me, now that I know what I have done in this story, let's talk about the first step of an alpha draft for me, which is the brainstorming. So brainstorming the end of a series is it's very different from brainstorming the end of a brand new project. When you start a brand new project, you have a clean slate. You can pull in any characters, you can pull in any history. But when you are writing a series, it's a lot different because now I'm on book 4, which means my characters have to both be recognizable to you guys reading it, to these are the characters you watch on screen. They have to be the 2003 versions of this, so we're talking 17 years ago in the future, 17 years ago in the past. So Sonny, Carly, Jason, and Elizabeth are all different people. They're much, much younger, and they've been through a lot less. Sam has never shown up. Courtney is gone. It's also got it's also 17 years ago for Luke and Laura and Lucky. It's 17 years is a very long time. So it has to be a recognizable version of those characters. But if you are a newer viewer, it still has to be a version of the character that makes sense to you now. And it also has to be growth. So the Elizabeth and Jason you see in book 1, page 1, cannot be the Elizabeth and Jason you see on the last page of book 3. So it's a lot of things to juggle, and it makes writing book 4 of a series that I've been writing now since 2016 a little bit harder. And if you know anything about Mad World, you know that I've actually been writing a version of the story since 2004. Mad World is actually a rewrite of a story that I did a very long time ago. A lot of it is very, very different. It's set in a different time period. It kind of goes to a very different place. But it is something just I have been living with this in my head for the last 16 years, off and on, in different ways. So knowing that I am going into the finale, there's a level of pressure that I'm putting on myself just to make sure that I finish the story the way that makes me happy, because this is I've worked a lot really hard on this story. Brainstorming. So I sat down and looked, and after I finished reading those first 3 books, I made a list of characters I thought, I don't know if we have the right closure for them. I think one of the characters I really noticed that I was a little unhappy with was Dylan, because Dylan was a big part in book 1 and 2, and he was a little less in book 3. And I think it's just because it's not that he needs a storyline. It's not that any of the characters that I've noted need storylines. It's just that they have been part of the universe. So you want to leave them with a little bit of closure. So maybe Dylan and Georgie reunite after everything they've been together, and he's been through this relationship with Lulu, and Georgie's kind of grown up a little bit, and now that they can approach each other as different people. I'm not entirely sure that I'm satisfied with the way that Ned's part in the whole Rick situation comes together. I mean, he acknowledges it a lot in book 3. He and Jason talk about it. But I think, to the best of my knowledge, he refers to it once with Elizabeth, maybe twice, and then I don't know that we ever really come back to it. And I think that's something I definitely want to hit in book 4 when it becomes clear that Rick is still a factor, so that Ned's guilt should be part of that, because, he's still the grief over losing his daughter, and the grief of knowing that what Elizabeth is going through is in part because of his own selfishness over what happened with Christina, Alexis' sister, who died in 2002. So I think we need a little bit more. I think Ned needs a little bit more of a through line in that book 4. I need to do more with Lois and Olivia and Dante, because Dante is he finds out Sonny is his father, in book 3, and in book 4 the whole world's going to find out, and I need to do more with that. I think that was one of the problems with my original draft, is that really fell off. You guys would not know that, you have not read the draft, but it really fell off. And then Sonny and Dante never really have any kind of interaction, which I think it's just because I didn't know where to go with that, and I have a better sense of where I want to go with that now. So those are those kind of things. And then I went back and I looked at my beta note drafts and like what are things that like I wanted to do. And honestly, we're in pretty good shape. So brainstorming wise, I actually have all the pieces I need. I know all the characters I want to feature. I know all of the storylines I want to resolve. I actually do know the outline of how the Rick storyline is going to go. So it's mostly just fitting in all that, where those pieces go, and making sure that they kind of form something that makes narrative sense, and so that the chapters are making narrative sense. So brainstorming, we're actually in good shape. So that was my plan. That was the goal for this week. So it was Thursday, December 24th for me, and my goal for this week was to get to a point where I have lots of brainstorming notes, so I can take those brainstorming notes, look at the, I guess, 13 or so chapters I've already outlined, and go over them with my new ideas about Ned, Dylan, and Lois and Dante, and just make sure that they're flowing already, and then finish that beta draft. So that is my plan for the week going forward. So today is, like, again, the Christmas Eve. You guys will be seeing this video probably next Wednesday, so December, whatever that day is, and then I will be filming again next week. So my goal for next week is to have that finished. So actually, by the time you and I see each other again, I will be checking in with the beta draft is ready. So like I have outlined everything, I have broken it down, and I think only thing that I won't have time to do is the soundtrack. And I'll be doing that in the background in January. So the next time you hear from me, it'll be about December 31st, and I will have a beta draft for you. So actually we're making good, this is exactly where I wanted to be at this point. Maybe a day or two behind, but like I'm used to it. So Mad World Book 4 is off to a good shape. I also want to briefly end this by talking a little bit about what I want the finale to do. And the finale of a series, it depends on what your series through line is. Like, how does your series connect? So sometimes you just have characters that connect. This obviously has a storyline. We start book 1 with Carly's kidnapping, and then the last 3 books are dealing with the aftermath of that. So book 1 is actually the kidnapping and the panic room and everything that happens. Book 2 is dominated by that serial rapist storyline, but it's also dominated by the aftermath of Rick and Elizabeth and Carly starting to deal with that trauma. And I would say that book 2 is Elizabeth dealing with the Rick trauma, while book 3 is Carly dealing with the Rick trauma. And I think that is probably the best way to discuss how those narratives break apart, which means book 4 is Carly and Elizabeth finally triumphing over their trauma. And I think that is a good, as long as I keep focus on that being my central narrative conflict that pushes it through, I think that the finale is going to be good. I have a whole universe of characters and subplots that I definitely want to have resolution. But at the end of the day, it's going to be that Rick and Elizabeth and Carly triad that needs to have the firm focus. That as long as I feel like Carly and Elizabeth are winning and their victory, that they have recovered, and that Rick is finally paid, I will feel satisfied with what I have done. So, I will see you guys next week. Have a great holiday season. Actually, by the time you see this, your holiday season will just be about over. So I hope it was good. All right, bye.